If you're a facilities manager at a warehouse and your HVAC system goes down, it can turn up the heat, literally. But don't sweat it, Grainger has you covered. Grainger offers over 1 million industrial-grade products for all your operations, including warehouse HVAC maintenance. And even better, they offer access to experts and fast delivery, so you and your warehouse can both keep your cool. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
You're listening to the Archaeology Podcast Network.
You are now entering the Pseudo-Archaeology Podcast, a show that uncovers what's fact, what's fake, and what's fun in the crazy world of pseudo-archaeology. Hello and welcome to the Pseudo-Archaeology Podcast, episode 101. And tonight on the Pseudo-Archaeology Podcast, we answer the mystery of the Piri Reis Map. The mystery of which is, why are we still talking about the Piri Reis Map? So why am I taking the Piri Reis Map on? Well, this is one that happened to come up on my phone the other day. Again, as I told you guys, I Google this stuff every so often just to see what you may be seeing. You know, what we all may be seeing in our news feed, or if we're just interested in archaeology, what comes up. And this map came up, and it's also plays a part in the Eric von Däniken Chariots of the Gods book. And I thought I would just do a deeper dive on this because I didn't know a lot of the bits and pieces of this, but I'd heard about it for years, you know, and I knew it was silly, but I wanted to know the base of the silliness. You know, we got to have a little fun with our day. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to take this one on. And so what is this thing? I classify this as a Tharby Dragons map, right? You got a lot of these from like the sort of 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 centuries, you know, of differing scales, of differing focuses, or is it foci? Based in different areas of the world. And you guys know the look of these, right? They're all wiggly. They're all multicolored. They look cool. There's images of like ships on them all over the place. And there are, you know, images of dragons and weird creatures. And there's little notes on the side. And it's all in like really good handwriting. You know what I mean? Right. It's one of those. So as I look further, there were some big quotes that came up about this really often. Like, it is full of advanced features. It actually may include faint fingerprints of a lost civilization. And it may have been made long before what we call history began. So I'm looking at these quotes and I'm like, all right, what's the deal? So the deal is this. The map was made in 1513 by a guy named, you guessed it, Piri Reis. And I got nothing against Piri Reis. He's a cartographer. He's like a admiral of the Navy and a cartographer in the Ottoman Empire. So this is focused in the Turkish world. And he makes this map for the Sultan at the time. It's going to be a gift to the Sultan. And really, it's a synthesis of other maps. So he looks for maps from all over the world and he tries to make a world map to the best of his ability. Now, only a third of this survives today, but it actually is, I would say, the fun third, being basically focused in the center of the Atlantic Ocean, right, where we see the coastline of Africa, a little bit of Europe, and then, of course, North and South America. So that's really the part that we're looking at. Now, there's also other bits and bobs to it. Like the big thing that gets brought up a lot is when you look at South America, it curves around to the bottom of the map. So South America is basically on the left-hand side, and then it curves around down, like the landmass continues and then is like along the bottom. And so that's the argument of an early depiction of Antarctica. Yeah, I know. Just let that one sink in for a moment. And as you look at it, Antarctica has like snakes in it and notes on it that says it's really hot here. So instead of going, hey, maybe it's just an extension of South America along the bottom, because they used to do that all the time in the 15th, 16th, 17th century, right? They just kind of crammed it onto the piece of paper. Oh, no. It's not just South America curved around. It's Antarctica, my friends. And luckily for us, it's made from sources that are so far in the past. Antarctica was hot. Yeah, so we're not going to go with it just curves around naturally as South America, which is totally obvious if you actually take the time to do, I don't know, a scientific exploration of it and actually take a map of South America and kind of curve it around. And you'll notice that the topography matches South America as it goes down. It's just curved. You just jammed it onto the page, as they always did during that time. Oh, I have to laugh at myself. We got to stay focused. So this is that classic pseudoarchaeology moment, right? Instead of going with the obvious explanation of like, dude, it's just South America curved around. It's like, no. It's hot Antarctica. So what's so interesting about the Piri Reis map, though, is that it does have coolness to it. This is not a fake, right? It's a map that a guy from 1513 tried his best to make. You know, good for him. And I feel his pain, because he's not alone here in making maps that are difficult to make. I myself have done that. So I feel his pain in terms of my own map making history. And what I mean by that is sometimes in areas where Piri Reis is, this is difficult. And again, while Piri Reis made this map based on older sources and stuff, he also made it based on his own experience. He was a cartographer, so he made maps too, so he's going to go with some of his own maps and then he's going to add to it. This is a knowledgeable map maker who's doing his best. But you have to realize in 1513 what he had. He don't got no longitude and latitude lines, right? He has a compass on a boat, as all these other guys did too in the early 1500s. You got to realize 1513, that's only basically 20 years after Columbus, right? That's in Columbus's time, so the Europeans are exploring the coast of the New World for the first time. So 20 years after Columbus, Piri Reis did a good job. Again, I feel for him using very basic technology to do his best. And as a naval captain, you're going to want to have a good idea of the coast, of course, for the ships, for seeing things like the outlet of rivers and this kind of thing. So when you look at early maps, the Piri Reis map included, you'll see that where the rivers come out is sort of doubled down on the map. It's made to look bigger than it really is, just so the sea captains go, oh, right. Because that's going to be a major thing to see, to have an idea of where you are literally on the globe. So he's trying to make something that is worthwhile. Now he's making this as a present for the Sultan. So he's going to push the cool parts. Wouldn't you? I would. What I mean by pushing the cool parts is he's going to extend certain aspects. Like for the New World coast, the New World at this point is the New World. So you're going to make this look big. You're going to make it look impressive. You're going to drive the north part of North America way up to the top, and you're going to push the southern part of South America way down below and curve it around to the bottom just to go, look at this big, huge, fat piece of land we found. and I'm giving you a present, O Lord, of the map of it. Right? So in terms of scale on this thing, it's all over the place. Yes, they're trying to be good cartographers and make a map using kind of dead reckoning and compass. I believe, what's that called? I think it's called a portolan chart. That's a certain style of map making of the time. It's basically just using magnetic compass and dead reckoning some distances and doing your best, which honestly for archaeology isn't that far afield. It's not that much different than what we do to make our initial maps. So for me, if I'm going to make a map, sometimes I only have very limited time as they did. Sometimes I'm just going to write this thing down fast using pace and compass, just a tick different than dead reckoning. And I'm going to try and put this map together. I only have an afternoon at an ancient Maya site, and that's it. The rains are coming. We need to go. I'm sure that Piri Reis and his ilk of the time had very similar experiences where it's like, dude, our boat is floating down this coast at a current speed. You better draw that sucker because you got half an hour. Same thing. They're doing their best. So I feel for them in trying to make this thing. But then on the flip side, they're taking their map they just made and then presenting it to the Sultan. So if I had to present it to, I don't know, the president of the United States, I'm going to try and make it look a little extra awesome. That's a tough situation for Mr. Piri Reis and adding all the other maps to try and make this best guess at a world map with a commercial for himself and for the Sultan. Now, again, while I haven't had to make a commercial, I have had to make quick maps. And when we come back, a little more about the difficulties of map making and the Piri Reis map.
This podcast is sponsored by Ramp. Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. With Ramp, you get full visibility into your company's spending and control who spends what with each vendor. Ramp's software collects and verifies receipts instantly to save your team valuable time. Ramp automates data entry and routine tasks with automated approvals, expense categorization and bill payments, time-consuming tasks. Which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. Get $250 when you join Ramp for free. Just go to ramp.com/easy. Ramp.com/easy. ramp.com/easy.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members of FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
If you're a facilities manager at a warehouse and your HVAC system goes down, it can turn up the heat, literally. But don't sweat it, Grainger has you covered. Grainger offers over 1 million industrial-grade products for all your operations, including warehouse HVAC maintenance. And even better, they offer access to experts and fast delivery, so you and your warehouse can both keep your cool. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hello, and welcome back to the Pseudo Archaeology Podcast, episode 101, The Mystery of the Piri Reis Map. And when we last left, I was talking about map making in general at this time and the difficulties of it, but also the limitations, It ain't gonna be perfect. So what are the nuts and bolts of this map? Because people are curious. I get it. So the map itself is made on gazelle skin parchment. That's pretty cool. And it's pretty big. It's about, think of it as about 3 feet by 2 feet. So this is like a full-sized piece of gazelle skin. and so on it you have these compass roses that you'll sort of see throughout, and those were used in the map making process, and you'll see the lines that are drawn with a straight edge out to kind of try and fit everything together as best as possible. And as we talked about before, you see Europe, North Africa, Brazil, and that Atlantic region. And I would say what Piri Reis gets done the best is that area of like North Africa and the northern coast of South America. It's not bad. Like if you look at it, you go, oh yeah, you will recognize it instantly as those two things. But then it's as you stretch up and down where it gets crazier, right? We talked before about one of the biggest difficulties of the map where you just have South America curved around through the bottom, and people call that Antarctica, and it's just not. Like, I'm not even going to have that argument. It's like, oh, Kinkella, but is it or is it not? No, it's a no. It's one of those golden moments in pseudo-archaeology where it's 100% no, it's not, and 0% maybe. But the fun part is the truth, the facts of the Piri Reis map, right? So yes, we only have this third that survives, but it's cool. And it was made from previous sources, where the synthesis of many other maps. So what are those sources? There's a lot of kind of Arab and Indian sources. And by Indian, I mean the subcontinent of India. And he also talks about Portuguese maps, Ptolemaic maps, and realize that this isn't ancient Egypt. This is kind of Greek Egypt and post that time. So it's not as ancient as that sounds when I say Ptolemaic. It is a true try at a world map, but you also have to think of that time, the time of Columbus, where they think of the coast of North and South America, that East Coast may also be as the East Coast of Asia. They still kind of conflate Asia and North and South America. So you kind of have this funky East Coast of Asia is also the East Coast of North and South America kind of amalgamation. And you really see that as the map stretches out on the far tips. The stuff they don't really know. They kind of slap it together. So there's like an island on there where people are like, is it Japan? Is it Cuba? The only way you're going to conflate Japan and Cuba is if you do something like this. And I got to tell you, it looks like neither. And again, I laugh, but I feel for Piri Reis because, dude, I've been there. You know, there's other islands on there that are either made way too big, like the Azores. Again, scale. It's just fun with scale on this. You know, they're doing their best, but they're also trying to be like, hey, look, it's the Azores. So they make them really big. And there's one or two islands that you can't really place. So they're like, obviously Atlantis. Oh, man. You know, it's extra islands are nothing on these maps. They're screw ups. Trust me. How do I know? I've done stuff like this. Let me explain. So in my map making history, I work a lot in the jungle, and my dissertation was all on, yes, it was on the cenotes, these pools of water in the jungle, but a huge part of it was mapping them in and mapping in miles and miles of jungle that nobody had ever mapped before with very rudimentary equipment. Not too horribly different than what Piri Reis did. I used a compass a lot of times, right? Real bit. This isn't LiDAR. This isn't super great GPS. I had a GPS unit, but I could only get a point every so often because, well, the jungle covering is thick. So I feel for making these maps in new places. I have had those times, as I explained before, where I only had a day and I just went for it. I tried my best. And what's so funny is if I look at my map, there's a map I made of one of the major centers we were working at in Belize, this Maya site called Yalbak. My initial map, I made in a day, and I did my due diligence. We had just gotten there. We had very little time. This is a Maya site with pyramids and a ball court and all that kind of good stuff. I did my best. And actually, the finished map from that day is in my master's thesis. But I look back on it, and now in the intervening years, I finished my master's thesis in 2000. In the intervening years, much better maps have been made at Yalbak. And if you compare the current map of Yalbak, made using a transit, spending days and days and days out there, getting very exact measurements, it makes my map look laughable, right? You can look at it and be like, Kinkella, well, I can see you had a day, dude. You tried. And the basics are there, much like the Piri Reis map. When you look at it like the Piri Reis map in the center, you're like, oh, yeah, that's Africa. Oh, yeah, that's South America. on my map, you can be like, oh yeah, that's the core of the site. But as you go away from like the core of the site where the obvious pyramids are, as you go outward, my map gets more and more off, to the point where there might be a pyramid on there, not major ones, but there might be a little one, a little structure on there that actually doesn't exist. I know it is, especially once you go outward from the site onto my transect, which is a cut through the jungle. But as you get further and further away, now my data is good. I'm not here to totally throw myself under the bus. That happened last episode. But I am here to say that there are ways where even if you're doing your due diligence, you can screw it up. And I noticed as I went over things again and again, or as people made a much better map in the intervening years of Jarl Bach, that you can actually find, maybe a little structure or a portion of a structure that I drew that isn't really there. I'd taken a wrong measurement, Yeah, I was 99% right, but I was 1% wrong. And so instead of going, where's the secret of Mound 36? Mound 36 that Andrew Kinkella mapped in. We went back. It's not there. Aliens? You decide. See how easy that is? You know what my dream is? Is if people from the future came back and looked at my old map from 2000 and went on a journey to find the missing map 36. And hopefully they never blamed me. They never used the truth and be like, yeah, Kinkella messed one up, man. He took the measurement wrong. Well, yeah, it happens. Right. Instead of that, they're like, the mystery of Mound 36. And they come to like interview me and I'm like an old man and I'm like, oh, I remember it well. Mound 36. Yes, it's not there. Taking no responsibility for my actions. That would be great. Right. The mystery of Mound 36. It just has nothing to do with anything. It's just my simple screw up. I want to see a mini series on it tonight. The search for Mound 36. Full of the mysteries of the ancient Maya. Where is Mound 36? Well, it's in the pile of Andrew Kinkella's screw ups is where Mound 36 is. And I bring this up just to show you that, hey, Piri Reis messed up a few times too, and it's okay. And the world's biggest waste of time would be to double down on the mistakes on the Piri Reis map. And that's what pseudo-archaeologists always ask for. There should be more study on the Piri Reis map. No, there shouldn't. That's a waste of time. And they always say it's the best map from the 16th century. And again, remember, this is made in 1513. That's early 16th century. It's the best map from the 16th century. No, it's not. Even Piri Reis made another one, and I think it was 1528 or something. But no, that is flatly false. Even Piri Reis would be like, hey, man, can we look at my one from 1528? Come on, I fixed a few things. Andrew Kinkella's map is the best map of the 21st century. No, it's not. You see this cherry picking of data and lack of like looking through this with a conscious data driven eye. It's just, that's all you need to do. So the Piri Reis map, in terms of why we even know about it today, is it is one of those things that's actually kind of cool, where a portion of it, Piri Reis said he took from the original Columbus map. And that could be cool. We all want to see the original Columbus map, right? It doesn't exist. And Columbus had to have made maps while he was coming to the New World. But it does seem that some of the other maps use the knowledge from the Columbus map in later ways. And, did Piri Reis have access to Columbus's actual maps? Probably not. There's this other map, an in-between map between Columbus and Piri Reis that Piri Reis probably used for some of the New World stuff. But since anything Columbus sells so well, there was this search for the lost map of Columbus, right? You're going to watch that show. And actually, in 1929, they refound the Piri Reis map in Turkey. See, that's cool. It had lain dormant for hundreds of years. Nobody cared. And then they refound it, and sort of called it initially the Lost Map of Columbus, which it's not. It's an amalgamation of many maps. But hey, it makes a great story, right? When we come back, what to do with the Piri Reis Map.
Is your vehicle stopping like it should? Does it squeal or grind when you brake? Don't miss out on summer brake deals at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Hello, and welcome back to the Pseudo Archaeology Podcast, episode 101. I am still your host, Andrew Kinkella, and I'm going to tell you what we should do with the Piri Reis Map. So what to do with this thing? Should we expose it for the lies it contains? Should we just kind of enjoy it? Should we forget about it? Should we be embarrassed and appalled that we even looked at it? No, we should just be chill with it. It's fun. It's interesting. It's the Piri Reis Map. This reminds me so much of Shroud of Turin, actually, where it's one of those stories where the facts of the case, again, this is not a fraud, right? This map was made in 1513. It's a real document. But the reality and the awesomeness of it is covered up by so much BS, right? That's what's a bummer. I just want to enjoy it for what it is, which is just someone's take on what the world looked like in 1513. And he tried to make it look cool for a sultan. Right. And that's fun. Let's enjoy that. What are we going to do with my MA thesis map from 2000? Should we run an expose on Andrew Kinkella fraud? Again, it's too late. I've already done it. No, we enjoy it for what it is and for the time and for that time marker, like for the Shroud of Turin. The Shroud of Turin, what was going on in 1350? What was it like in France in 1350 where the Shroud of Turin is? That's what's so interesting, right? Same thing with the Piri Reis Map. What's going on in 1513? What's the world like in 1513? What's happening in the Ottoman Empire of 1513? Let's get into Piri Reis's mind, what he's trying to do, because he is trying to make a world map of some sort. He is trying to show everything. He is trying in a kind of scientific way to bring together knowledge. But, it ain't going to be perfect. Let's not cover it up with, is this Atlantis or not? Ugh, is this Antarctica or not? Ugh, right? It's not. And those stories suck. Let's get away from our magical thinking a bit. We're so afraid to do that, Let it go, because magical thinking is a drug, dude, and it's a good drug. Ooh, you feel magical thinking when it hits the vein. Oh, it's good stuff, right? But I think we're afraid in terms of what to replace it with. What are we going to replace our magical thinking with? And we can replace it with laughter and with good humor and with fun. We can beat the magical thinking at its own game, right? And we can also even learn from something like the Piri Reis Map. We can take some of its notes into our modern map making world. We really can. And I know that sounds weird. Before I get to that, first, realize, why, besides cramming South America onto the bottom of the page, besides just the paper, why put that lump of land at the bottom? At the time, there was this idea of terra australis incognita, right? You can say it with me. Terra australis incognita, which, if we translate, terra is land, australis is southern, incognita, you guessed it, is unknown southern land. So early map makers thought, okay, we have all these land masses in the northern hemisphere, right? Look at Asia, North America. Hey, there's probably going to be about the same in the southern hemisphere to balance it out. That makes sense. It's wrong, but it makes sense, if we think the Earth has to somehow balance, which it doesn't. There's way more land mass in the north than there is in the south. So they would err on the side of caution by putting more stuff in the south. You know, it's like, I have no idea what's down there, but there's got to be something. So, you know, we'll curve this around. Close enough. Good enough for government work. That's what they're doing. And I'm not saying that we should do that in our modern map making. Oh, yeah, we'll just curve the stuff around the bottom. No. What I am saying gets in the philosophy of map making. As I tell my students, map making really is, at the end of the day, it's half facts and it is half art. Because we have to remember what we're making is intrinsically odd and intrinsically a little wrong. We're making a flat representation of a ball-shaped object, right? We are making a flat representation of a globe. So unless you're making a globe, you have to cut corners in some way. You have to kind of change things up a little. So my note for us of today in map making is not to do things scientifically incorrectly or not factually, but after you have the factual things on, do have a little appreciation for the art of it, meaning how it looks to others. I love GIS as much as the next guy, but sometimes GIS maps, they're a little boring. They really are, you know, and so an eye for perspective, an eye for making things even multicolored. You know, you're not going to fault Piri Reis for his artistic style. There's a lot of art on that sucker. Again, it bows into the world of the wrong. We don't want to do that, but we want to have a feeling for that. You know, I do want a map that has a little bit of vibrancy to it. You know, give me both. I want a factual map that also looks good. You know? And that's okay. It's okay to do that. Just do me a favor and don't draw any dragons at the bottom. Or maybe do, if that's what the Sultan wants. And with that, I will see you guys next time for another adventure in pseudo-archaeology. Thanks for listening to the Pseudo-Archaeology Podcast. Please like and subscribe wherever you like and subscribe. And if you have questions for me, Dr. Andrew Kinkella, feel free to reach out using the links below or go to my YouTube channel, Kinkella Teaches Archaeology. See you guys next time.
This episode was produced by Chris Webster from his RV traveling the United States, Tristan Boyle in Scotland, DigTech LLC, Culturo Media, and the Archaeology Podcast Network, and was edited by Rachel Roden.
This has been a presentation of the Archaeology Podcast Network. Visit us on the web for show notes and other podcasts at www.archpodnet.com. Contact us at chris@archaeologypodcastnetwork.com.